It is 12 noon Central Time in wonderful Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I want to welcome everyone, good morning or afternoon, depending on your time frame, to the special presentation of ASA's Webinar Wednesdays, brought to you by the Automotive Service Association. Today's presentation is on the next generation of AMI with Jeff Peevy, President of the Automotive Management Institute. In this bonus webinar as part of ASA's Webinar Wednesday series, AMI President Jeff Peevy, AMAM, discusses why engaging the Automotive Management Institute results in increased net profits for your business. If you intend to stay competitive in this industry, you need to become familiar with the next generation of AMI and what it has to offer. Again, my name is Tony Mala. I'm ASA's Vice President of Industry Relations. I will be your host today. And again, I am joined by Jeff Peevy, AMI President, who will be joining us very shortly to begin his presentation. In the meantime, I'd like to cover some housekeeping stuff here. Tips for optimal webinar experience begins the list. You have joined the webinar in listen-only mode, which means you are on mute. For those of you who have dialed in by phone, please be sure to select telephone on the control panel and enter your audio PIN number in the audio panel to eliminate any possible echo. During today's session, we will be having a question and answer period. We usually hold these towards the end. If you look at your control panel on the right-hand side, you will see a little box marked questions. If you click on the small square with the arrow pointing to the upper left-hand corner, that will maximize that and allow you to get a bigger view of the question box. Please enter all of your questions in that box. Jeff will address as many questions as possible at the end of the training session, and any that we do not get to, we will, if you ask in that box, and we will have your email address, we'll try to get back to you after the fact. Today's webinar will also be recorded, as they all are, and available for viewing by all ASA members at their convenience. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeff Peevy, AMI President for the next generation of AMI. Hi, Jeff, welcome.
Well, hey, well, first of all, thanks, Tony, thanks, ASA, and more especially thanks to the attendees. I'm honored and humbled that you guys are willing to give me some time to discuss a few things. A lot of these are things that AMI is doing. Some things are that I'll talk about a result of research and things that I've been involved with. And I'm going to switch over here. If you guys can bear with me, I will change the screen over and put my PowerPoint onto there. So that you guys should be able to see my screen. Tony, can you confirm that you can see my slides?
Yes, I can. You're doing fine.
Good. Okay, well, thanks. There's been, it's kind of hard to believe, but in May, I will have been with AMI for 4 years. Prior to AMI, many of you know I was still in the training and education side with the Inter-Industry Conference on Auto Collision Repair, or ICAR. And it was there, even previous to that, I was the training director at Valspar House of Color. I've been involved in the education training side for more years than I'm comfortable admitting to. There were some experiences that I had 7 or 8 years ago that led to my enthusiasm around the Automotive Management Institute. And I was involved in studying technical training and its relationship with shop performance. And there were some things that we kept seeing that were related to the office staff, administrative staff, and just customer-facing staff in general that I had really no influence over. And so when I came to AMI, I was really excited and enthusiastic about the opportunity to address some of that. This isn't an easy sell. And the reason I believe is because we're as an industry, most of us, as did I, started out working on cars, being very technical minded. We all, for the most part, but not 100%, but a lot of us in this industry we look through technical lenses. I think that's probably the way I would would say that, and so we tend to try to solve everything through technical training or through equipment or some technical process and so forth. And there's some things that we actually overlook, that I'm convinced that we overlook, and I really want to address that. And I have some things that you'll hear me say that stand out. In fact, on the screen, you see the slide that says, in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. And I sometimes, in talking with groups of veterans in the industry, I'll be engaged in a conversation about concern about the next generation. And over the last couple of years, I've begun to realize that, honestly, the younger generations, as they come into our industry, and hopefully there'll be more, they're more equipped to deal with our industry and all of the changes and the momentum of change really better than we are. And those of us that's been around a while. And I think that at some point, we need to acknowledge that we're working in a world that they're way more equipped for than maybe we are. And that requires a mindset change for those that's been in the industry. And unfortunately, sometimes experience doesn't work for us. I believe that our role, having been in the industry since 1981 full time, I see my role more and more as providing context to those in the industry, because there's still a lot of lessons to be learned from the past. So I have this next slide that should be coming up pretty soon that says, it's not the 95% that's right that makes something work. It's the 5% that's wrong that messes everything up. And this is in the book Measuring, Managing, and Maximizing Performance by Will Catos. And you kind of think about that. We're taught to have a positive outlook on everything, and it is about choices, and being positive is always good. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to just stop and say and acknowledge that it's those little things that we do that isn't right that sometimes throws the wrench in. And I think about over the past years, we've seen a lot of training and movement towards processes, and that we really start to focus our energies on having the proper equipment, the proper training, and the proper processes to be able to really do the job well, to do it quickly and accurately, and all those things are good. Unfortunately, sometimes though, and especially with our staff, we can become so focused with that that we forget about all of that is there in place to please the person, the people, the customer, the consumer, the person that walks in our door and pays us to provide a service. So I had an experience with a series of tire stores. I had a boat trailer that I had an issue with a trailer, and I needed the tire fixed really quickly. And there was a series of reasons why that was. It wasn't the usual, I'll drop it off and pick it up later kind of situation. And I go to the first tire store and I bring the tire in. And I say, I have a problem. Is there any way you can put a plug in this or fix this very quickly? And I start telling my story, and they're like, okay, well, just drop it off and we'll get it in a couple hours. No one was listening to me, and I got very frustrated, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. I go to the next place. Place was really clean, computers at the front desk, people had on great uniforms, and it was very professional looking. I go up, and here I am, a whiny customer. I come in and start telling my story, how I need this fixed, and the gentleman that was waiting on me never lifted his eyes from his computer screen, and pretty much was waiting for me to quit talking so that he could tell me that here's the process. And so I just said, never mind, walked out, go to the third place. And at the third place, the individual, the young man that was standing there, listened to my story. He had some sympathy for this old gray-headed guy, and says, you know what, sir, let me see how quick we can get this done. He grabs the wheel and tire from me, takes it in the back, comes back and says, you know what, we'll have you fixed up here in just a matter of minutes. Is there anything else we can do? And that just impressed me, and I was so appreciative. He got me out of a bind. And even though it was just a small tire that needed to be repaired, I have since bought a set of tires, and I intend to buy every set of tires from now on from this business, because that's how I am loyal to the fact that, to me, what was most important to me become what was important for them. You see, in small businesses, much of of that 5% is a lack, I think, of soft skills. And I believe that we sometimes, because we are looking through technical lenses so often, we forget that the soft skills are really the glue that binds a lot of the things that we do together. So let's look for a minute at skills. Skills by definition is the ability to carry out a task with the predetermined results, often within a given amount of time, energy, or both. And I look at it and I'll say, okay, there's soft skills, which in this case could include, and we'll go into a little more detail here in a second, but it can include interpersonal, people skills, social skills, communication skills, listening skills, and then there are the technical skills. Those are the ones where it requires eye-hand coordination and labor skills. And we could even expand on both sides of this, that it requires knowledge. And in the technical skills, that would include technical knowledge, knowing about the suspension or the brakes or those sort of things. And that, I believe, as an industry, is where we focus so much of our time. Because, when we start talking about soft skills, to most of us, and to me for many, many years, that was just kind of fuzzy. And so I'm really reluctant to really even use the term soft skills, even though I will, because truth is, skills are skills. They can be defined. They typically are observable and measurable. And I can assure you, listening skills are very observable. Communication skills, very observable. And if you're measuring customer satisfaction, if you have some various KPIs that have anything to do with the customer, believe you me, your soft skills are measurable. And so I think that that's something that I would like to do is, and have really been working to do since I've been with AMI, is raising the level of awareness around soft skills and around those skills. And in the examples, when I say soft skills, what I mean would be the social skills and interpersonal skills, communication skills, listening and phone skills. That could include being able to even write emails and communicate through text, not just through phone. It can include work ethic and attitude and time management, negotiation and problem solving skills, collaboration or teamwork skills, and emotional intelligence. When I reference soft skills, these are the ones I'm talking about, and they are in so many ways considered a little fuzzy to most of us, at least to me, because it's not in that technical, I can pick a tool up or I can go work on a car and understand the complexities technically. So I'll give you an example. We have when it comes to soft skills, there's a lot of debate on the educational side about what it takes. Oh, some people say it takes role playing and it takes a lot of work and ingraining these things into people. But I'll tell you what I've noticed, the observations in the shops that we've been working with, and I'll use listening skills as a really good example. My wife, Marie, tells me on a regular basis that the listening skills courses that we have at AMI online, that I should start my day out listening to those and going through those courses every time, because I'll tell you, listening is a challenge, and I think most of us would agree that if there's anything that we would benefit the most, both our customers and our operations, it's listening skills. If the technicians are listening, if the owner is listening, if anyone in the staff are listening to each other and to the customer, we certainly are providing a much better level of service. And yet they claim that only 2% of adults have had formal listening skill training. And our industry is no different. So when I talk about that really are the sort of things that I'm really talking about. In fact, the White House Commission on Consumer Affairs says that 94% of small businesses fail to formally train customer-facing office staff around listening, telephone communication skills, conflict resolution, negotiation skills. You see, we so often put soft skills as just an assumed personality trait. That's just the way so-and-so is, or that's just, we have someone who we have answer the phone because they're good at it. I can tell you that the best person that you have answering the phone can still get better through phone skills training and through communication training and through listening. We all can. In fact, what I would say is that when someone takes, for example, an online, I'll give you my personal experience with our listening skills course. One of those in particular I'm really fond of. First of all, I realized how poor of a listener I am. I realized that what areas and what environments I am the worst listener, that I find myself waiting for someone to stop talking in order to talk myself. You know, maybe I've got some little kind of pre-planned thing to say. And so just by being aware of soft skills and communication skills and listening skills, conflict resolution, you then have a tendency, if you're serious about improving, to have those things in the back of your mind as you work with a customer or you have some conflict among employees, and you begin to practice some of those things. And I'm not going to say that taking the listening skills course or some of the communication skills course is a one and done. In fact, it's probably a good thing to take those at least annually over and just keep growing in those skills and practice those skills. We struggle as adults and as in the automotive repair industry because we're an industry of small businesses. We wear a lot of hats. We're very busy people. We have a lot, our businesses are very complex. And so it's easy for us to put training off and to go somewhere and do role playing, and a lot of that sometimes is very difficult. So by taking an online class, heighten your awareness around the skills within a category like listening or communication or telephone skills, and then begin to practice that awareness can make a big difference in the operation and in the individual. And I would say it's actually pretty effective. Stanford Research Institute and the Carnegie Mellon Foundation had a survey back in 2008, it's been some time, of Fortune 500 CEOs. And what they determined was that 75% of long-term job success result from soft skills and only 25% from technical skills. And it's easy for us to go, well, that's probably Fortune 500, that's administrative. But here's what we found. We did a survey a couple of years ago, and we set the stage. Some of you may have even participated in the survey. We set the stage around the importance of soft skills, what those soft skills were, and so forth, and then had the people participating think about what percentage of an inventory skills, knowledge and inventory skills that even a technician would have. How much of that needs to be soft skills? And it was surprising to me. It was around, I believe it was 35% of their skills and knowledge inventory should be soft skills. And to tell you the truth, it makes a lot of sense, because even if we're working under the car and we're focused on technical things, our ability to our interpersonal skills and all of those things that have to do with working as a team, they all really matter, and they actually are some of the key things around success. So now let's look at that soft skills, and let's put that in relation to employee engagement and customer loyalty. Now, according to Wikipedia, an engaged employee is one who is fully absorbed by and enthusiastic about the work, and so takes about their work and the business that they're in. So they take positive action to further the organization's reputation and interest. So when I make reference to employee engagement, there are different categories of that, and one that is engaged is someone who really is taking action to improve the reputation and interest in the company. Now, a Gallup poll back in 2013 of the state of the American worker made a statement in that white paper that said that engagement levels among frontline or customer-facing employees are the lowest of any occupation or role that Gallup measures, and that it continues to decline while engagement for every other category has increased. Now some experts would say that has to do with a generation that is beginning to take those roles on, that has spent most of their life in front of some sort of a screen electronically and has done a lot of their interacting and interpersonal practice indirectly. But to tell you the truth, I think that it could be just the pressure of of production a lot of times, and expectations of the businesses and the hard push. But think about this, that the engagement levels of those people that are facing the customer are not very good. And think about that. One of the little pet peeves I have, and I can't help but mention this every time, is when I go and buy something and the person pretty much just hands a wad of money and change back to me, and I find myself saying thank you, and the response back is no problem, as opposed to saying thank you back for the business. They look at it very differently. Of 100 million U.S. full-time workers, that same Gallup poll said that 30% of the U.S. employees are engaged, again, working with passion and feel a profound connection to their company. And they typically are the ones that drive innovation and move the company forward. I think we all would like to say that we want to be that person and that we want those kind of employees in our business. Unfortunately, that 52% are not engaged, and then you see that there's an actively disengaged, and you go, well, at least they're not actively disengaged. But the not engaged may be the worst ones, because they've already checked out. They're kind of sleepwalking through their day. They're putting in their time, but you're really not getting their energy or their passion. You know, the actively disengaged, which in this survey was 18%, they're not just unhappy at work, but they're acting out their unhappiness. They undermine what engaged workers accomplish. So I would say this: if you have people that you identify as actively disengaged, you need to just get rid of them. The real thing is to work on the not engaged people, and those typically are the ones that actually have hope. So what does all this matter? What does this mean? Well, first of all, you take the soft skills. Listening, interpersonal communication, negotiation, the list goes on and on. You think about that engaged employee, that 30% engaged, that means only 3 out of 10 are engaged. You've got a full 70% that are either not engaged or actively disengaged. And when you do business with other businesses, you probably would recognize 7 out of 10 of those are really not enthusiastic about their job. In fact, the ones that are kind of stand out and catch you off guard. They also say, and it's interesting that the not engaged and actively engaged represents 70%, but there's also a 70% variance as a result of the management. So if you're struggling with employees not being engaged or actively disengaged, your management processes and you as a manager have some role in that, some responsibility. That means you also have a lot of influence in getting those people engaged. One of the things that we're finding is that there's a 28% bump in engagement levels when there is consistent soft skills training. So what happens, we see over and over, is, oh, people kind of complain a little bit initially that they're taking, that, you know, oh, here comes some more training that our employer wants us to take, and the eyes roll and everything. But then after they get involved in it, the listening skills, we've done that with whole staffs within shops. What happens is they start talking about it. Sometimes it's joking about, you know, different aspects of that training, but they're all raising their awareness around stopping and listening and being active listeners. And so it's not something that's just a personality trait. It's something that certainly can improve. And when you engage your employees, you not only are training them on soft skills so that they communicate better, they listen better, they negotiate better, they can find solutions to problems better. But what really happens is that it becomes obvious to the customer. An engaged employee with a skilled employee working to satisfy a customer is a win every time, every time. In that Gallup poll, there was 2 areas that increased employee engagement, and what they call the Q12 in the survey. 2 of those 12 was that really rose to the top was, here's what improved engagement, is there is someone at work that encourages my development. And that in the last year, I had opportunities at work to learn and grow. Even if they complain a little bit because you're pushing them to take training, in the end, they recognize it as you care enough about them and their contribution to their business that it really helps. I will tell you that unlike technical skills, soft skills, communication, and listening not only benefits the employee at work, it also benefits their relationships at home and their family and friends. It is a win-win in every way possible. So, do yourself and your employees a favor by focusing some efforts on soft skills training. When we look at the impact of that, some statistics that really jump out at me, and that is a dissatisfied customer, according to White House Office of Consumer Affairs, will directly tell between 9 and 15 people about their experience. That same group says that 13% of that dissatisfied customer pool will directly tell more than 20 people. But then that's just directly word of mouth. That's not the social media impact. And in this day and time, you can bet those numbers are continue to be magnified because of reviews. And I know I look at reviews before I do anything. And 78% of the customers today, according to Genesis Global Services survey, says that the competent customer service staff is really the most responsible for their happy experience because they listened and communicated well. In a lot of our businesses being small, we wear a lot of hats. You may not have dedicated staff that do nothing but customer service and are customer facing, but we all benefit. We all benefit when we kind of recalibrate ourselves from time to time around what really is what is active listening and how can we better communicate with our customers. We also find that really the message here is that engaged employees are the most productive. They make the least mistakes. They don't steal typically, and they take the least amount of sick days. They stay the longest, and they tend to be the ones that will make customers happy. Engagement requires good management and ongoing professional development, including these soft skills. And I will keep bringing that up, that soft skills training and development goes beyond work because it helps us all at home as well. You see, training and developing non-technical soft skills, I believe, is the next level of competitive advantage. And I have a presentation I won't do now that is the tale of three shops. It's a shop that doesn't train their staff at all. There's a group that trains technically very well. And then there is the group that trains technically and in soft skills and non-technical training, and they do it consistently. And they have this culture that is really around learning. And when you look at their bottom line results, when you look at their annual growth, there is no comparing. There is no comparing. The message is very strong. And I am a really believer that learning is the only source of a competitive advantage, and training and development in those soft skills is that next level that the majority of our industry doesn't do. So then we start to talk about AMI and how AMI plays a role in that. One of the things that we do is that we offer a path to professional growth. And that can be, we provide career paths for office and management. You'll find that the foundation there at the bottom in that graph says customer service certificate. We have a customer service certificate for mechanical service repair. We have one that's somewhat parallel for collision repair, which is true for all of our professional designations and certificates. Then we have a professional designation for office manager. We have a general manager, the AAM, or accredited automotive manager, and then the accredited master automotive manager. And that provides some structured education to ensure maximum operational and soft skills performance. And we're finding that, if you hire someone, they're answering the phones, they're working with you, giving them that start around the education process and that structure that we have around customer service. If they continue to display an interest and really gravitate to that, then you actually can provide them with some more growth and development around working towards that office manager role and so forth. A lot of people have this in our industry, have a fear of training people and they leave. I know many of you've heard, but I believe it's better to train them and they leave than not train them and they stay. But despite sometimes our feelings, training employees increases your employee retention. I've seen a number of different studies. I've been involved in quite a few. We've seen retention levels actually double and improve 30 to 50% based on how we've approached the studies. And so over the years, I've heard people go, oh, I hate to invest all this money in these people because I know they're not going to stay. Yet statistics and the studies over and over and over show that they actually stay longer if you do invest in their development. The Automotive Management Institute is structured around certificates and professional designation tracks. There are educational tracks that are tied to each one of these, and the recognition program. So both collision and mechanical service repair, there's the customer service, the office manager professional designation, the automotive manager. Again, those are general managers as well as a master level. On the collision side, we have estimator designations, professional designations. There's 2 of them, and we are working on service advisor designations. Those are being developed, and we will continue to grow our offerings to the industry. And it's not just the recognition and achievement, which is something to be very proud of, but there are educational tracks. So there's online requirements, and then there's electives. So there's core competencies, and then there's electives. And the electives can be taken through live instructor-led training. And so we provide structured, relevant educational tracks. They build on top of each other, upon one another, and they are achieved through approved live instructor-led classes, online courses that we offer in our learning portal called My AMI. We have a program now where we give credit for articles. If you ever see an AMI approved logo with an article, a podcast, or a webinar, there's ways that you can achieve ongoing training and elective credits by the way you learn, whether it's like in this webinar or podcast or even articles. And that program is growing very quickly. So if you're reading a magazine or are involved in some trade magazine and you don't see a lot of articles approved, ask them why. We are providing that. It's about 12 a week, 10 to 12 a week, I think it is, that's starting to come through us now. So when you put all that together, again, there are those core competencies that have to be achieved. Once those are achieved, there's you can pursue interest or fill the gaps and deficits in areas maybe you're weak in. But all of that provides hope for a lot of employees in small businesses. Gives them a little bit of a sense that they're growing professionally and that you as a business really are concerned. What I would suggest, if you're not overly familiar with the Automotive Management Institute, go to amionline.org. You see the orange arrow there, course catalog. You get a sense of just how much training there is. So there's a catalog for general, which includes a lot of leadership, soft skills. There are then mechanical service repair training that's more operational and more specific. Under the general, there's also some HR courses, and then there's one for collision repair that's specific operational. And then there is the live instructor-led courses that kind of give you a sense of what's available as well. So that's one thing I would suggest if you're not familiar with us, to go there and look at that. And then the next thing is, if you're not familiar with the My AMI learning portal, and our website at the top right hand, there is a My AMI login. I think that's really a good place. If you've not gone in and set up an account, I would suggest that you do it. You set up an account, it doesn't cost you anything. You choose your segment and then choose an area of interest, and then save that, and then it will populate the training requirements based on what you've chosen. So it's here a lot. There's over 200 online courses, whether it be collision or mechanical service repair. We have some assessment tests currently on the collision side with the estimating platform CCC1. There is a enterprise arms training that tracks rental cars and so forth. So there's just a growing list of things to take advantage of. The other thing that is the latest announcement, and it's specific to collision, but there is some elements here for the mechanical service repair I'll talk about here in just a little bit. We were chosen by the FCA or Chrysler Certified Collision Program, their network, as their training host. If you're actually interested in In that, here's what's available. They, for their network, highly recommend for management office and estimators. There is a course on how to use Tech Authority. That's where you get the OEM procedures that are available for the FCA vehicles. There's a course coming out on how to leverage your FCA certification if you're a collision repair in that program, as well as how to partner with your local FCA dealer. There is a management's guide to scanning and new technology, as well as a series on improving CSI. There are KPI basics. And then for the mechanical service repair, there's also for collision or service repair, we have the Mopar YTech 2.0 online courses. Those are available at Mopar through the Tech Authority website, or they're available here. There's one on fundamentals, really helps you understand the basics of their ECU. And then there's one on flashing an ECU. And then there's one I found very interesting on flight recordings. And I had no idea that that was even capable. So if you want to learn more, you go to the amionline.org. There's going to be a pop-up that comes up first, and if you're not interested, you just have to exit out and keep going. But if you click on the Learn More, it'll tell you how more about the program, as well. It will tell you how to sign up to have access to those courses as well. So we're here to help you. We're here to support you. That's why we exist. Probably the fastest way to get support from us would be to email us at supportingsuccess@amionline.org. Our entire staff gets this email. We typically will have someone at any given time who is tasked with responding as quickly as possible. There is a chat feature once you get into the My AMI Learning Portal. If you have a question, we will typically have someone manning that and watching that. So we're there to help you. And then I'm here to help you. We're small in staff. I will be more than glad if you want to shoot me an email or give me a call. This is my cell phone number. I will be more than happy to assist you any way that I can, and more importantly, to learn from you. I think that's really probably as important as anything, if you have any suggestions or whatever. So Tony, that's all I have. If you want to take the screen back, and we can open it up for questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if I don't know, I'll tell you, and I'll sure work on getting an answer.
That sounds great, Jeff. And by the way, great presentation. Yeah. A couple of questions real quick that come to mind. You know, something you said touched a nerve with me. I think it rang very, very true.
Hey,
you know,
I'm always saying things that touch a nerve with you.
You do. Yeah, yeah. But in this case, it was a good thing.
Oh, wow.
We tend to focus on technical training, and you're right, we tend to. But you know, the soft skills, if you think about it, you know, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Right. And who's the first person your customer generally talks to is the individual at the service desk. And soft skills training seems to lend itself, I think, to the online learning environment. The question is that true? And how much of the soft skill training is taking place online these days?
So yeah, great question. Yeah, well, it varies by training provider. Those that offer it online will tell you that online is the best way. Those that don't offer online and do it only as live will tell you that's the best way. I will tell you there are some statistics, but again, I'm reluctant to quote them because of the fact that they vary so much based on who did you get the results you want. There is great value in going to an instructor-led course where you role play, but there's a lot of individuals that are not comfortable with that. I do see that we've worked really hard to have some good online courses. Those courses, the ones that are really good, have videos. There's one on listening skills, and I keep coming back to that one. There's one on listening skills where someone's trying to order a part, and they're having an issue, and they keep going back, and the person that's taking the order keeps trying to solve the problem by giving them a discount, and they're not listening to, that's not what they're talking about. It's not what they want, and it's really simple. All they do is listen and address what they were being told, and because they're so programmed to just, solution to everything was just a discount, would that help? The person got very frustrated. Another one on the video was around someone called and asked for someone, and the person didn't take a note. They didn't really listen to the person. They didn't get their name completely right, and what they wanted, they didn't write it down. So when the person came back from lunch, they said, you got a call. I think it was from so-and-so. It's like, oh, well, do you know what, did they say what they wanted? And he's like, No, I don't really know. I think they wanted to make an order, and so there's this whole chain of communication. So I think to sort of answer your question is online courses need to have some of that role playing done in videos that you can relate to. And I'll tell you what, once you hear that play out and you see the two people talking on the phone on two screens there, you start to relate to, man, I have been on both sides of that situation. And so you become a little more aware of not letting that scenario take place. So there, online is becoming more and more effective every year. And when we update our courses every year, they just get better and better.
Hmm. Well, and again, it seems I know, especially when you're dealing with customer service issues, if you will, as you say, role playing really gets the message across. Something else you said that rang true with me was you mentioned credentials. And I got to tell you, it's been my experience that credentials are a great morale builder and recognition tool. And I think your point is well taken with the shops that do the best job in developing their people generally have the lowest turnover, and I'm sure that's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are two credentials I know: the accredited automotive manager and then the
Mm-hmm.
master accredited automotive manager. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's two for the general manager role. Now we've split those where there are those are available for the collision repair segment, and then there is that same parallel that is available for the mechanical service repair. There are some things that are different. There's a lot of things, businesses are businesses, but in the end, there's we found more value by splitting those. And so as people are achieving those now, they're achieving one that's specific to a segment. There is the office manager, accredited automotive office manager role now that is just 60 credit. It's halfway to the AAM. So you can get a professional designation with 60 credit hours now, and then you have to maintain that with 6 credit hours a year now, as does all industries with professional designations. There's been some confusion over the years with AMI that it's like a degree, I got it, and one and done. Those are technically professional designations, and they should have always required ongoing training. They do now, and I'm willing to defend that. There's also then those estimator professional designations. So let me tell you, Tony, this is an interesting set of statistics. So if we pull into the parking lot of a hospital, and on our way up to the hospital, we walk through down the sidewalk and we're observing the landscaping, and then we go into the hospital. When it comes to industries and professional designations, inside the hospital, the staff of the hospital outside their college degrees, about 75% of the individuals working in the building of a hospital have professional designations that they've achieved and maintained. Now, that landscaping that you observed, and I didn't know this up until just about a year ago, in the landscaping industry, they have professional designations that they achieve and maintain as well. And 1 in 10 worker in that industry has achieved and maintains a professional designation recognized in that industry. Sadly to say, our industry is not as mature and developed in that area as even the landscaping industry, and I find that very interesting.
No, we definitely still have some work to do. Well, from the sounds of it, AMI is a great tool to achieve that. And last question, you had mentioned credits for things like reading magazines and watching this webinar. What sort of credit do you get for watching the webinar and reading an article?
Yeah, so this is one of the few webinars that doesn't require going into my AMI and taking a quiz to get a credit. So to get a credit today for this, it's as simple as emailing me and asking or just telling me that you want to get your 1 AMI credit hour for today's webinar, and we'll do that. I always leave that towards the end, so if you stayed with me, you're aware of that. So it's J Peevy, Peevy at amionline.org. Just shoot me an email and tell me you'd like to get credit for it, and we'll make sure that happens. Also, if you're an ASA member, ASA National has worked with AMI to qualify so that its members get a 20% discount on online courses. So you should have the ASA discount code for that, and that's 20% is 20% these days.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, listen, this has been fascinating. I want to thank you for your time and thank you for the presentation. It was great. Couldn't ask for more. We hope to see you back here soon.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks everybody for sticking with me. I know sometimes this is not the most exciting. If we were talking about, tripping codes or something, we may have had a larger audience. But I'm going to keep fighting this fight because I do believe this is way more important than we sometimes give it credit.
I would tend to agree with that, and the important stuff is rarely exciting. So, thanks again, Jeff. We really
Okay.
appreciate it, and thank everybody for taking the time to be with us today. I also want to thank Doug and Tricia, our folks behind the scenes who are handling the engineering of today's webinar. You have been listening to the next generation of AMI with Jeff Peevy, the AMI president. This presentation has been recorded and will be available in a day or two for download and viewing at your convenience if you are an ASA member. If you are not an ASA member and listening to this broadcast, we encourage you to think about becoming one. This is one of the many member benefits that you will recognize with the association with the largest national trade association fighting for your rights and interests in Washington, D.C. in our nation. Next time, our Wednesday, March 20th from noon to 1 p.m. Central, we will have our Washington Watch with Robert Redding Jr., our legislative representative for the Automotive Service Association's Washington, D.C. office. I was just talking about representation. Bob is the guy who gets the job done. This webinar will give you an update on the 2019 state legislative sessions and learn about legislation that will impact shop owners. In addition, we will discuss the first quarter of 2019 and what will be on the legislative agenda that will be of interest to shop owners both on the mechanical and collision fronts. Registration for the Wednesday, March 20th webinar is now open at asashop.org. We encourage you to join us for yet another great presentation on what's new, what's now, and what's next in our industry. Also, I want to remind everyone that our Auto Inc. publication is now digital. ASA members, just like our Wednesday webinar series, we are working hard to create more great content for you. Auto Inc. is now a digital publication, and you can access it at autoinc.org. Check out our new blogs, technical tips, access videos, and podcasts, and much more. Again, we want to thank you for spending some time with us. Next generation of AMI with Jeff Peevy, AMI president. And again, Jeff, have a great day. Like I said, a recorded session of the webinar will be available soon to ASA members. We thank you for your time and attention and look forward to seeing you on March 20th for our next installment of ASA's Webinar Wednesdays. I'm Tony Mala, ASA Vice President. I want to thank you for joining us. Have a great day and a great week.
Thank you.